Muhammad Mahdi al-Jawahiri was born in the Iraqi city of Najaf in the year 1899, during the final years of the Ottoman Empire. After the collapse of the Ottoman Caliphate, the British occupied Iraq and installed a puppet government under the leadership of King Faisal. After gaining popularity as a young poet who published his writings in newspapers, al-Jawahiri was employed in the court of King Faisal. However, he was eventually removed from his position after he wrote multiple poems attacking corrupt government officials and religious elites. During British rule in Iraq, a vast amount of land was given to a few tribal sheikhs who were loyal to the British authority. These tribal leaders hired tens of thousands of poor peasants to work for them for minimum wages. Al-Jawahiri witnessed the extreme poverty and hunger of the peasants during the rule of the British-backed monarchy. Therefore, al-Jawahiri fiercely criticized the tribal sheikhs in the following poem. When the sheikh comes, you see those poor peasants following him like beasts, almost dead, and their faces are burnt by the summer's poisonous heat. You see them kneeling down to his shoes and slavishly kissing his feet. Al-Jawahiri stood up against the powerful tribal sheikhs and called for land reforms. However, these reforms were never implemented by King Faisal due to pressure from the tribes. Apart from the tribes, another obstacle to progress in Iraq were the religious elite and the clergy. Al-Jawahiri criticized the religious preachers in his hometown of Najaf after they refused to allow a girls' primary school to be built in the town. Al-Jawahiri proposed a government plan to build a girls' primary school in the town, but the religious leaders of the town rejected the plan and did not allow the school to be built, because they wanted education to be exclusive to the religious schools. In reaction to this, al-Jawahiri stated that these scholars were hiding behind the veil of religion in order to have influence and power, and they did not care about the welfare of the country. In a fierce poem addressed to the religious scholars, al-Jawahiri reminds the people that the religious elite are normal, sinful people, and he exposed their hypocrisy in the following poem. To them, religion is just a tool which they use for their personal goals, and in their ranks are thieves and fornicators. This poem infuriated the Islamic scholars of Najaf, who protested outside the palace of King Faisal, demanding that he sacked al-Jawahiri from his government position. As a result, King Faisal removed Jawahiri from his government position. Therefore, al-Jawahiri stopped working in the government and became an independent journalist. He published multiple newspapers such as the Al-Furat newspaper. However, all of his newspapers were forcefully shut down by the government because they criticized influential religious and political leaders. After the downfall of his journalism career, al-Jawahiri began working as a school teacher. He taught at multiple secondary schools such as the Al-Ma'muniyah School and the Basra High School. After the death of King Faisal in 1933, al-Jawahiri returned to the world of journalism and established the newspaper known as Al-Inqilab. In 1936, al-Jawahiri was sentenced to 3 months in prison, and his newspaper was suspended for 1 month after he criticized King Ghazi and his close relationship with Hitler. Al-Jawahiri was against all forms of colonialism, and he did not want Iraq to go from a British-backed monarchy to a German-backed monarchy. Even after being released from prison, Al-Jawahiri continued to attack the German-backed government, and he published daily articles in which he warned against the Nazi project in Iraq. In 1937, Al-Jawahiri was imprisoned again after he took part in a protest in solidarity with the Iraqi Jewish community, who had been obliged to pay higher taxes by the government. Al-Jawahiri wrote the following poem: The history of the revolution of free thought tells us that 1,000 Christs were crucified for its sake. While he was in prison, Al-Jawahiri's 9-year-old daughter was killed after she was poisoned by German agents from the Nazi embassy in Baghdad. The German government killed Al-Jawahiri's daughter in revenge for his daily attacks against the Nazi party. After the death of King Ghazi in 1939, he was succeeded by his son, King Faisal II. After the end of World War II, Al-Jawahiri once again became involved in politics. In 1947, Al-Jawahiri was elected as a member of the Iraqi parliament, but he resigned in 1948 in protest of the Anglo-Iraqi Treaty, which allowed the British to dictate Iraq's foreign policy and military affairs. Al-Jawahiri resigned from the government and joined the people in protesting against the treaty. In 1958, the Iraqi monarchy was finally overthrown in a military coup led by the communist Abdul Karim Qasim. After the communist government of Abdul Karim Qasim came to power, Al-Jawahiri praised many of the reforms that were implemented by the new government, such as land reforms and legal reforms. However, he later clashed with the regime and began speaking out against the mass executions of political opponents. As a result, Al-Jawahiri was exiled from Iraq and took refuge in Lebanon. Al-Jawahiri wrote the following poem: Justice is a simple word to utter, but very difficult to realize. The oppressed see it totally the opposite of what the oppressors understand. And when rulers saw that justice was a threat to their sick dreams, they wrapped it with laws that tyrannize in the name of justice. Abdul Karim Qasim was eventually killed in another military coup in 1963, led by the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party. In 1968, during the reign of President Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr, Al-Jawahiri was pardoned and allowed to return to Iraq, where he was allocated a monthly retirement salary of 150 dinars. However, Al-Jawahiri was eventually forced to leave Iraq for a second time in 1980, when he was asked to praise the new president Saddam Hussein in a poem. Saddam asked Al-Jawahiri to compose a poem for him, but he refused to praise him. Shortly after this, Al-Jawahiri's son was arrested by Saddam's secret police. After being harassed multiple times by Saddam's agents, Al-Jawahiri left the country. In 1993, Saddam stripped al-Jawahiri of his Iraqi citizenship, and he was never allowed to return to the country. During his time in exile, al-Jawahiri attacked Saddam and his tyrannical regime in many poems. Al-Jawahiri lived the rest of his life in exile in countries such as Morocco, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Syria. He passed away in Damascus on July 27, 1997, at the age of 98. In one of his poems, al-Jawahiri wrote the following lines: "Calamities came all together upon me at once. My armor is patience. Benefit through corruption is not my style, and does not fit with my principles. For every line life writes to challenge me, I have a line to reply with.